Oh, you made that. Part 2, decorating an old plastic pot.
Okay, we're back. My paper is dry, glued on both sides to seal it. It feels a lot more closer to like a plastic now than it did paper, which will be stronger and easier to work with. I've taken my pattern, wrapped it around my pot, and I'm just trimming off any excess, just neatening it up pretty much, because I just cut it really roughly and the edges were jagged. So you take your pattern, wrap it around your pot and make sure it fits pretty well. Now take your pattern, either draw around your pattern to cut it out, or do as I have and just way down your pattern and cut it out, keeping in mind the wide part of the pattern is the top, in case your print has a top and bottom to it. Now save your excess, because sometimes, you know, things go wrong and you might have a little bit of a hole that you want to fill. Also, I highly recommend using a busy print. Now see, this print is pretty busy, so therefore if there is a little hole that you have to patch, you can stick an extra piece underneath it, match the colors, and it won't be able to be detected that easily that you patched it. As well as the fact that no matter how hard you try, the paper is going to wrinkle a little bit, so if it's busy, those wrinkles won't show. Now, take your finished product, wrap it around your pot again to make sure it fits nicely, which, see, fits quite nicely. Oh, one thing I did forget, I kept this pot black. It was a black pot, and there's black in the paper, so it kind of matches. If it doesn't, if your pot's rust or ugly, paint it. And when you paint plastic, make sure to rough it up with some sandpaper first and then paint it. And then once you put your seal on top, the paint should stay on. Now, remember, we are just making something crafty out of cheapy, so don't think it's going to last you forever. It'll be cute while you use it. I make heaps of them. When they get ugly, I chuck them aside, or I do overs. In fact, the one that I'm going to use with this, that I'm sealing along with this, is a do-over. Remember in part 1, the pretty terracotta pot done in black and white fabric with the lady's face on it? Well, believe it or not, this is the same exact fabric. They were done together. This one wasn't done as well. Do-over. Okay, back to what we're doing. And this is just one of those old TV stands you can buy to make for your TV, if you had a small TV. I bought it really cheaply somewhere. But it's great for doing pots because you can work on it on bigger pots. I do a lot of really big ones that are too heavy to hold like this. Okay, back to this. Oops, upside down. Put your paper on to make sure that it's going to sit properly, which this one does, and glue it on. Now I've got some fresh glue and a fresh brush, because now you want your glue clean, because any little specks will show up on your paper, especially if you're using a white paper. Oops, running out of glue here. The glue, the good thing about the glue, once we get it on here, paint the whole pot full of glue. Once we get it on here and it's hardened, it sort of molds into shape, so we're almost kind of making a mold, and it won't come off because it'll be hardened into the shape of the pot. And then we're going to put sealer on top as well, so don't really worry about the fact that stuff doesn't glue to plastic that well. Yeah. Be sure and cover the entire pot. Start to put it on. Now you're lucky with the fact that because we seal the paper, it's much more rigid, and if you get a wrinkle, you can just pull it off. So you sort of smooth as you go along. You've got a wrinkle, pull it off and put it back on. Now you can do that a few times, but not hundreds and hundreds of times, because eventually the glue will moisten the paper and it'll start getting weaker. So and also try not to tear it as you are fitting it into place. This being a smaller pot, it's easier. The larger pots is when you have trouble. But just practice on the little small cheapy ones, and you'll get better and better, and before long you'll just have pots and pots covered everywhere like I do. Okay, now a friend taught me, this is a good idea, you take a old metal spoon and you use that, the back of it, to help you smooth out the wrinkles. Now there are going to be a few wrinkles. It just happens. Once in a blue moon I get a perfect one, but very rarely. And I'm not that picky because, like I said, they're just cheap plastic pots that you're just fixing up, you know, just for a little decoration. I don't get all that, you know, fussy about them. But this spoon idea works because eventually you get glue on your hands, and your hands stick to the paper and causes more difficulties. So just take your spoon and your thumb, whatever you can do, and get the air bubbles out as it starts to stick. And like I said, you will get a few wrinkles. You probably can't see them, which is the beauty of the busy paper, but you will get a few wrinkles. Then when you get to the end, the flap, just put some glue in your flap. I can hear my husband coming in and he's probably going to talk, so I want to hurry up and get to this part. And basically that's it. Don't put it on the bottom, because that's when the water comes out, you know, it'll mess up. So don't put it on the bottom. I'm filming, hon. Just take it to the bottom. I usually like to buy a nice cheap colored plate, like from the $2 shop, and use that as my drip saucer to catch the water. So you might have a little bit of extra around the edge here. Just trim that off. Just going around the edge, there you go, and trimming it off. Now this one has some weird little dents in it. Depends on your pot. But basically, now you just let it dry. It does have weird little dents in it. So this one has weird little dents in the bottom, so I'm just going to clip it around those dents and push my paper under, or else it'll be just floating in midair and won't have anything to stick to, because as you see, can you see that? That these have some weird little dents in here. If you're just starting out and you can actually buy the pot, try to buy your pot with as smooth, as less obstructions as you can, as smooth of a pot as you can. The terracotta ones are the best, but then there's extra problems with terracotta because they're so porous. You have to really seal the inside, or when you water your plant, it'll come through to the outside and ruin the paper. Plastic ones are great because the water won't come through, but they have other problems. They're shapes. But there's that. So you let that dry, and we move on to the next step, which is, I'll use this one since this one's already dry, sealing it. And this is where I told you the glue has to be clean because it'll show. And what you want to do is just paint the PVA glue all over the entire thing. Now, give it a good coat covering everything, but not too heavy, because if you put too much, the glue dries milky and your pattern won't show through clearly. But you want it to have a nice even coat of glue all over the whole thing. Now this is whether you're going to use the Estepol or the resin to seal it. If you're going to use the resin, you especially have to do this especially well, and I would do 2 or 3 coats of glue, because the resin, if it's not sealed properly, it will bleed, which means your paper will look like it's always wet, and it ruins the design. Estopol not so much, but it's always good to have a good seal to protect your print before you put the shiny stuff on the outside. And especially if you're going to print your own paper like I do, you know, just something cute. Sometimes I make happy birthday all over it, or music, or whatever. If I'm giving a gift, whatever that person likes, I'll print up my own paper to relate to what they like and do this.
A good habit to get into while sealing is to paint your first coat vertically, and after that dries, your second coat horizontally. That way you make sure to cover the entire item.
Okay, we're back. It's dry. Now we'll just seal it with the Estopol. Let's see if I can see it. Yeah, Estopol Clear. This is the one that cleans up with water, which makes it easier. And I usually give it 2 coats. Gives it a nice shine as well as protects the paper.
As with the glue, seal the pot with your clear Estopol. Remember, a light coat. If it's too thick, it'll turn out milky and it won't dry clear. Do 1 coat horizontal, let it dry, second coat vertical. If you want it to be extra shiny, give it a 3rd coat. But remember, light coats or else it'll end up milky.
Alright, we're going to let this dry and we'll come back.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this fun little project. Please visit me at www.blackberriestableart.com.au or www.hairmadesbycherie.com, or just leave a comment in the comment box. I would love to hear what you think. Bye for now.